This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome in, Roy Nobletree. A little bit under the weather, but fighting through. He's a gamer.
Yeah.
It's like Jordan against the Jazz.
Many people have said that I'm like Michael Jordan.
Yes.
They have made that comparison very often.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jordan Alvarez flu game.
Yeah.
Same person.
Yeah. I mean, I know you would identify maybe more with Jordan Alvarez.
Yeah.
Since he's
really doing it, right?
he's really the only person in the last couple of days who's brought you joy.
Yeah.
So,
My wife was like, "Why are you sad?" And I was like,
Yeah. So, look, I have two, like Monday and Tuesday, before we get into it, are two Astros fans in a row. Chris Allman and you.
Oh, brother.
And so I do feel like I could have the same exact conversation and like just put you behind a wall, like change your voice, and I'd have to just like, okay, is this Chris or Royden? And it would have to be serious context clues over your complaints, because I'm sure they're the same thing.
Contestant number 1, do you feel like dying? Just depends on yes. Contestant number 2.
Say your thoughts on Martin Maldonado.
Did Royden say, "Do you feel like dying?" and then depends on yes?
I tried to like rationalize it in like sports brain, and then I can't rationally. Yes, I feel like dying.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I know how you feel. You know, when the Red Sox get eliminated, it's you, or get eliminated, or behind it. You know, a couple years ago when they played the Astros in the LCS, when they really had no business being there, and they kind of pushed them to the brink a little bit, and you're like, oh, hey, maybe something's going to happen. Like the joy I felt, I was mad at that. Yeah. I was mad that they'd let me feel joy.
Oh man, it's the hope that kills you.
As opposed to letting me just accept the inevitable, which was the Astros are going to win the World Series, and we're just standing in the way.
Yeah, I just like the problem with baseball is, and I promise we'll talk about football, but like the problem with baseball is that it still is a 7-game series, so it's just dying death by 1,000 cuts when you go down 0-2 at home.
Yeah,
at home. Sorry,
that would be another. That would be maybe the death by 1,000 cuts would have like thrown me. That would that's Royden right there. Yeah, there's my context clue. All right,
don't follow me on Twitter. It's just bleak.
Yeah, for our first topic today, let's dive into something you and I have not really talked about that much this year, and that's USC.
Speaking of bleak,
it is. And look, they've only lost one game. But it feels like they're on a 3-game losing streak because of how the last 3 games have gone. Big lead, blew it, had to come back and beat Arizona, who, by the way, has found something in Noah Fita. So, he's now got his first big win with the win over Wazoo last week. So maybe that one wasn't as drastic as you think, but they go into Notre Dame, they get blown out this week, and this is supposed to be Caleb Williams, second run at a Heisman. Lincoln Riley getting back in the college football playoff. USC maybe winning another national title. And even though it's just one loss, they look so far away from that right now, because teams that win the national title don't get beat like they just got beat.
No. And look, your text message this morning was, what is wrong with USC? And it's really tough to be like, what is wrong with a 1-loss team and a quarterback that has 24-4 touchdown to interception ratio and it is still going to be the number 1 overall pick, and an offense that by any metric ranks in like the top 10 of any statistical category? The macro is their defense is atrocious.
Yes.
Like very, very bad. And
their offensive line's not really playing that well either.
No, and Caleb Williams can save you so much. So when he has that stinker game that a quarterback is bound to have, like everybody gets one. You know what I mean? There's not enough to overcome the star quarterback having a bad game. I was just looking up like do you want to play a quick game of like where does USC rank in defensive categories, or do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know off the top of my head. I would assume that they're at best in the middle.
They're like 95th in scoring defense, total defense, takeaway, like all of it. They're like 95th, like down the board. They have given up now more touchdowns than they've actually scored, which is surprising. Since that Stanford game where they only allowed 10 points to Stanford, which, I mean, considering they had the best wide receiver of all time, Stanford does, but they had Jerry Rice incarnate, but like reincarnated. But they actually
do have Emmitt Smith reincarnated.
Well, look at that. No, I just wanted to look and it's like, how bad has it actually been? 28 points to Arizona, 41 points to Colorado. They nearly blew that game again. 41 to Arizona. And then 48. So it's gone 41, 41, 48 down the line.
Now, granted, 14 of those points came on a scoop and score by Notre Dame and a 99-yard kick return. But those are things, again, you can't let happen if you are USC. If you are...
Well, that's fine. They still only scored 20 points.
Yeah.
Against that. I mean, it would have been a blowout, I think, regardless.
So they've proven that they're stoppable now, which last year on offense, they weren't really, like when they lost to Utah, they weren't stoppable on offense. They just got outscored. Same with Tulane last year. Tulane outscored them, and they couldn't do anything about it in the moment. I think it also speaks to something that Lincoln Riley has to look at in his coaching style, which is, 97% successful, but it's the 3% that gets you, right? Mm-hmm. It's this is what the difference is between you and Kirby Smart right now is Kirby Smart's teams play tough. They like even their bad days. Like if you watch Georgia played against South Carolina and Auburn this year, like yes, it was not glorious in any way, shape, or form. But did Auburn and South Carolina ever feel like for a minute that they weren't in a fight? No, they felt like they were in a fight because Kirby Smart has tough teams. I think that Lincoln Riley's finesse, it's not that he doesn't want toughness, it's just he needs somebody on that staff that can bring in that element that they're missing. And Alex Grinch is not the guy.
Well, you saw it with Ohio State after they went and got Oklahoma State's former defensive coordinator, whose name is passing me by. But now all of a sudden, Ohio State, whose offense isn't
Jim
rolling.
Knowles is
Jim Knowles, thank you. Yeah. Isn't rolling at the same clip that a normal Ohio State offense is used to rolling at. They're now third pretty much in every defensive metric across like somewhere in the top 10 in every defensive metric, along with Penn State, which we'll talk about here in a minute.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, they're winning games that if the offense wasn't rolling in past years, it hadn't really mattered for Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, that was Ryan Day's thing too. Ryan Day had a team that was, my God, offensively, he and Brian Hartline just had it just singing.
Yeah.
And then defensively, they were just like, please, would you drop the ball on accident? Which if you would just, like, if you could roll, like when the quarterback rolls out, like one of those days where like, this is the replay shows from behind, like, oh, he's got a wide open receiver. And he just dropped the ball.
Yeah.
If you could do that, like that's what they were hoping for because the defense was especially right up the middle, which used to be Ohio. I mean, I think about Andy Katzenmoyer with his freaking neck roll. And that used to be Ohio State's calling card.
Yeah.
Is that they were tough guys. Luke Fickell was one of those tough guys when he played there. They had A.J. Hawk and dudes like that who were just psychos right there up the middle and defensive tackles that you did not want to put a hand on you because it meant that you were going to hurt. And then it was just all of a sudden
through the crust of the earth.
The reason that Michigan flipped it on Ohio State was Michigan and Jim Harbaugh said, all right, here's what I'm going to do. The 5 guys I have on the offensive line and all the guys I have on the defensive line are going to be bigger and faster and stronger than everybody else.
Yeah.
Everything else will work itself out after that. But when I get to that point, then everything will make sense, which is why before even J.J. McCarthy comes in as the starter, I can get this team to the Big Ten championship game with Cade McNamara. I can do that because Cade will probably never see a defensive lineman. He won't even know what their numbers are because there's a big wall of maize and blue in the way, and he won't ever think about it and be sad. Like, that's just how it's going to work. That's what Lincoln Riley needs to do, and he has not done yet. I thought Bear Alexander, who's played pretty well on that defense, the transfer would be a lot better for them. But so far, I mean, because is it talent or is it scheme or is it somewhere in the middle? And given the amount of money that they spent in the portal on NIL this year on defensive talent specifically, they either made bad financial decisions or they're not putting these guys in the right positions to win.
It seems like a scheme thing, and it's always seemed like a scheme thing with the Lincoln Riley defense.
Look, the talent didn't change right when Jim Knowles came in, other than maybe him picking out some guys he liked for his system better.
Yeah, fair. I mean,
Ohio
but
State
he's also
was
had
still
a couple years in it.
But Ohio State was still like, it's only been 2 years, right? So Ohio State still, some of those guys they signed are still there, and still playing on that defense. They just are in better spots now.
And this is the thing that Oklahoma fans, maybe warranted or unwarranted, would always complain about, and why they're lying online that they didn't want, that they would never want Lincoln Riley ever to set foot in Norman, Oklahoma. But it just, that's what they would complain about, is that they couldn't win when like Kansas State would come to Norman or whatever. And they probably have a super winning record against Kansas State. But yeah, those games where it's just like, we're just going to run the ball 28 times down your throat. And like they couldn't beat those teams.
Okay, I have a theory that there's no proof to this because there's things, but certain teams can only win certain ways. Sometimes it's because of the geography.
Yeah.
This was kind of echoed. We had Matt Rule on the show last week on their bye week, and I was asking him about, adjusting who you recruit to who's coming into the Big Ten next year, what kind of scheme you're going to run, because you're going to have to combat 4 really wide open offenses when it comes in. I mean, you're talking Chip Kelly and Dan Lanning, and I mean, these offenses are wide open. Michael, like, Kalen DeBoer's offense, even though all those quarterbacks will be gone, except for UCLA's, you're still battling these wide open offenses. So how do you morph your style to fit you, but change it? And he said, well, look, in Nebraska, you have to be ready to play in terrible weather in the fall and winter. So we have to have a scheme that allows for that, but we also have to find ways to, when the weather's lovely, like keep, pace in those kind of games. So, and dictate a game. And I do think that certain teams can only, the Pittsburgh Steelers have really only won Super Bowls when they are just tough on defense. They've got big, nasty running backs, and they, grind it out. And like in December, when you go there and the weather is just crap. Yeah. Like doesn't even look, if you remember like some of those Ben Roethlisberger teams playing in just crap weather in Pittsburgh, it didn't bother them at all.
Right.
The Bills of the 90s were like a great example of you can do what you do as long as you fit it to what you are. They were the hurry up offense before that was cool. And they were playing in the worst weather possible, and they just made it work. Aaron Rodgers made it work because he's Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. So, but you have to have the personality of your university. Nebraska's never going to win again until they're just tough, corn-fed, Midwestern,
Iowa.
Yeah, well, I mean, probably a little bit like Iowa only just figured out a really boring way to win, but they do it. But USC needs to have flash and dash to me. You've got to be LA on both sides of the ball. And right now, they're for the most times LA on offense, but they are Bakersfield on defense, man. Like they are just, there is nothing over there worth going to see. Yeah, exactly. They are not LA on that side of the ball.
And that's weird because you would a coach can change the perception of a university, obviously. And as a Baylor, you've kind of seen that with like some of these new coaches in the Big 12. I was going to say, as a Baylor fan, and with Aranda, it's like he took a university, and Matt Rule did this a little bit, just made this a school where people were supposed to hit you all of a sudden. And it gave it a defensive identity at least a little bit from a school that was scoring 7. Everybody still has brain fog that Baylor's supposed to still be scoring 70 points. Well, that's just not the case. And it is weird just with USC, it's been like 10 coaches in a row that have just said, we're just going to continue to score, and we're just going to continue to try to score 55 points a game, which is probably, not for nothing, probably how you win. with all those kids in California who've been playing in that style forever.
Yeah.
Kind of became how you won in Texas when the spread offense was adopted around here. Like, you just continued to do it. It's what these kids know. But there's got to be a Troy Polamalu out there or something like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's got to be dudes that can hit.
Yeah. I mean, they had the 05 teams, the 03, 04, 04. What?
Did Polamalu go to USC?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
That's a great example. Like, they had, Ronnie Lott went to USC too, man. I mean, they need those dudes for, even though it's illegal now, but the headhunters of the group, the ones who are, Troy Polamalu is one of the best football players I've ever seen. Like, just pure football player, in that when you would be like, hey, why is the safety lined up so close to the line?
Oh, he jumped over the line.
And then it's just like, oh, wait, he's just run straight to the quarterback.
Yeah.
So it was all the different things that he was able to do. USC was great. USC's 03, 04, even the team that played Texas, they had studs all over the defensive side of the ball. They just don't. And Lincoln Riley didn't have those. Like, he's got a couple guys in the NFL from Oklahoma right now, but they're more on athleticism and getting coached up and playing a lot better in the NFL than they did Oklahoma on defense. So he's got to make a change to where he has that guy who finds the tough part of it and drills down the tough part of it, because they are look, if you want to play basketball on the grass with them, good luck.
Yeah.
But if you decide that no, we're going to play American football on this grass, they're in a world of hurt right now.
This Utah matchup is a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare for them.
Yeah. And look, Utah is still playing two very average quarterbacks and figuring it out. So anyway, we'll see. They got mentioned. Utah's got to feel good that Senator Lindsey Graham mentioned them on Capitol Hill today about their.
Yeah, I'm sure they were like, yay.
Yeah. No,
because I know one thing, it's college kids recognizing Senator Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, he was just so upset that they're all getting free trucks. NIL's out of control.
Is that your Lindsey Graham?
It's a damn good one, I'll tell you that. Go online, give me some money. I got to stop the evil.
You can't get cars. Meanwhile, go to LindseyGraham.com to donate to my campaign fund.
Absolutely. All right, when we come back, how long does Jimbo Fisher reasonably have left at Texas A&M? This is the Triple Option, 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
I think I should just do the whole show as Lindsey Graham.
I'd prefer that you not.
Jimbo Fisher's in trouble, guys.
Well, actually, that's pretty good.
Someone please point out the difference between Paul's Lindsey Graham and Paul's Kim Mulkey to me.
No, Kim Mulkey
Sounds
is
like
Kim
Baby
Mulkey
Billy.
is guys. Now, what you should be writing about.
So one's slower and one's faster. I'm really not hearing much of a difference.
No, really. And look, that's a sad thing for Lindsey Graham.
Yes, and I'm not talking about this from Paul's perspective. I'm talking about Lindsey Graham and Kim Mulkey.
Yeah. To this point,
I'm gonna some strongly
and I'll tell you,
worded emails.
to this point in my life, Lindsey Graham has never called up on the phone and yelled at me about something I said on the radio. But the other one has.
Yet.
Yeah, the other one.
Let's keep this going. Maybe you'll hear from the senator from South Carolina.
Yeah, the other one has. The other one certainly has. All right, so Jimbo Fisher's seat is hot.
Is it?
It is. Because here's what happens. When you pay a guy $10 million a year, and you look at the other guys who make $10 million a year, if you don't do what they do, the people who pay you that money are going to start going, hey, why are you doing the same thing that, I don't know, $3 million a year coaches can easily do? So he's in a prison of A&M's making, in that his agent went to them and said, look, for him to leave Florida State, you're going to have to give him the best deal in the history of contracts.
A prisoner of his agent's success is a crazy place to be.
It is, though. Now he's got the pressure of, okay, well, look, we've given you the best contract in history. And to Jimbo Fisher at this point in his life, look, he's got more money than he'll ever, he could light the rest of it on fire like the Joker.
I think his son needs more chains.
Yeah, but those are all those things he could do. What I'm talking about, the Joker and the Dark Knight. This is my half. I'm lighting it on fire.
It all burns.
Yeah. So he could do that and just say, look, I can prove to you that I can win. But he is not innovated. They look the same every week. They're tense to watch. You just watch them and you look over at Jimbo Fisher, and at times where it shouldn't be tense,
he's like, I don't know.
14-22 left to go in the third quarter and up 13 points. It looks like he's about to have an aneurysm. So they've got to, and for A&M, it's a part of a bigger quandary is you have seemingly in every step since firing R.C. Slocum, they've learned a lesson about what they do wrong compared to the other big money schools. And I'm not going to call them a big boy, a blue blood program, because they have not earned that. But they're certainly a big money school. They have more money than anybody. It's just ridiculous how much money that they have available before you even get to the alumni that will give you money. The university is wealthy.
I mean, you got 50,000 kids paying.
Yeah, plus oil money, all these things.
$25,000 a piece. Those oil guys, they're really patient about their return on investment. I don't know, because we hear that. And from A&M fans, every single year, Jimbo's on the hot seat. They have the money to fire him.
It's $76 million is the buyout as it stands today.
Do you want to be the administration that now has to foot that bill, going forward? Or do you give him another couple of years and be like, I don't know, prove it, is there a way? There's no way you can restructure the contract a major league contract.
What would he? Well,
why would he agree to that?
Why would he agree to that if he's just going to be able to no, I'll just stay fire me or not?
Yeah.
Just do it. So I don't. It's not like a prove it deal or anything like that. They are, and there's two things at play here this particular season that are working against Jimbo Fisher. One of them is, and neither of them are of his making, but he's not taking advantage of one of them. One of them is that Texas is really good now.
Yeah.
They are seemingly very built for the SEC. Not to mention that Oklahoma is really good, and they look like they're building for the SEC as well. Although maybe even that win a couple weeks ago notwithstanding, they look like they're set up to go well. Those teams are coming in. Mm-hmm. You're very familiar with them, and particularly Texas, who you think about all the time if you're an A&M fan, and vice versa with Texas. So they're your biggest rival is coming back into your life. And they're not who you thought they were when this announcement was first made. We're like, okay, whatever. Well, we're better off than they are right now.
Wins in the Big 12, yuck. Ugh.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Let them come.
Yeah. Now they've got Steve Sarkisian, who's reasonably built the team recruiting-wise, NIL-wise, all the things that you want to a team that can compete right away in the SEC. And this is also a year where you're 2 years removed from the best recruiting class in school history. The SEC is as wide open as it's ever been, and you are no different than
especially
the
SEC West this year.
Yes, the SEC West is wide open. You had both in the last 2 weeks
ago. We were talking about how they could win it.
Alabama dead to rights and Tennessee dead to rights, and you didn't win either of those games.
Yeah,
one of them at home too. So that is not taking advantage of the circumstances that they come to you because, and everyone else knows this, Alabama's not going to be, having to figure out and coach around a raw quarterback and a penalty-ridden offensive line all that much longer. Like, this is not like, oh, Alabama's done forever and Nick Saban's going to quit and go into a cave and, really focus on his...
You're looking at Alabama's floor, basically.
Yeah, you're like, right now, this is their floor. You have an opportunity to maybe even leap past them for a year or two, but they're not going to sit around and go, well, we had a great run.
Yeah.
Maybe it's our time to just not be 7-5. We're fine with it because we've done so much and had so much fun that we'd like to share with the rest of you as good people of Earth. No, that's not what they're going to do. They are going to attack this, and Nick Saban will attack it in a way that maybe nobody's ever done before because clearly he's been passed by one of his proteges at Georgia and Kirby Smart.
Right.
And there's, the Wolves are always going to be at the door. So Alabama's a little bit down. LSU can't stop anybody. They cannot stop anybody. And you'll have them at the end of your schedule, but that rivalry's gotten so weird, but you could have run straight past them right now and had them desperate and going, man, I really hope A&M falters. But now LSU's in a much better spot than A&M is. And so I turn and look back at Garrett to see him nod, but a couple weeks ago, Garrett and I were talking about A&M's going to, be past them in a minute if they can't tackle. And here they are, right back where where it all started. So I think those things will factor in a lot with Jimbo Fisher in that, the timing is not necessarily his fault, except for the fact that now you had an opportunity to take advantage of all this, and you're not.
And you have to think that Auburn, who I like their hire, but you have to think that Auburn will not be 0-3 in SEC play going forward in years to come, or 3-3 currently. You have to think that they won't be down. Mississippi State and Arkansas, give or take, how you feel about those programs, considering Arkansas's coach may be on the hot seat as well now too. Yeah. But I don't know. You pose the hot seat question, and every time that I hear it, I just kind of scoff because if they were serious about it, they would have done it.
Well, I think you wait. And so
we've gotten on to Texas for firing their coaches too soon.
It's year 6 for him, though.
Yeah, we've gotten on to Texas for firing coaches too soon, and Texas fans for being impatient with coaches. Now, granted, those coaches probably weren't the right moves to begin with anyway, so they probably had a point. But you still want to give these people time. It is year 6. I'm saying I just think they would have done it last year. You know what I mean?
Well, I think last year they had some built-in. Haynes King was hurt from the beginning of the year. That didn't work.
They got the quarterback thing again too this year.
Yeah, and then but again, if he's a quarterback guru, then you should have.
Why is Max Johnson throwing 2 interceptions? And
why is that so? And then they had Connor Wigman got hurt. Okay, not Jimbo's fault, but. You are also Max Johnson has you in a position to win games, and your decisions, though, if you watch the way that A&M's losing these games, they are losing games that are kind of being handed them because he's not aggressive at all.
Yeah,
he refuses to go for it on 4th down. He had 3 timeouts in his pocket with 2+ minutes left in the half this week at Tennessee, and because he knew Tennessee was going to punt and pin them down inside the 15-yard line, he's like, well, I'm not a magician. I'm not going to do that. And here's the thing. Jimbo, the reason that Jimbo Fisher, if you want to have one little thing on his
Mike McCarthy level clock management, by the way.
Yes. If you throw me into the room and say, give you what's the one thing you would like to assess Jimbo Fisher about? Career long. He has no regard for timeouts or when to use them, when when to maybe save them, like what is going on around you. So
Go ahead, sorry.
He'll take one on the first drive so he doesn't get a delay of game when you're like, well, you could
eat that a little bit.
You're playing LSU, like maybe you're going to want that one at the end of the half so you can maybe get like even just a field goal in a game that's usually tight. Oh no. And then at the end of the half, you're like, oh, well, I used 2 timeouts in situations that need them to because I was going through my massive War and Peace like play sheet and couldn't get it done. Or the play call came in from the offensive coordinator now, and I'm like, well, I mean, this isn't.
I didn't know Gone with the Wind ended like that. Anyway.
This isn't a video game. Bobby, change your mind.
Look. It is baffling to me, and this goes for the pros too, because you see it all the time in pro football. And granted, these guys have a lot to like worry about and like all the things. So like clock management sort of becomes like secondary to all of this stuff, especially if you're also the coordinator. McCarthy, example number 1 last night. Yeah. But like the sheer incompetence of people who have to manage all this stuff to be able to manage clocks at the end of halves and games is baffling. Give some of that $10 million to a dude that's played Madden once. Have him sit right next to you and be like, Jimbo, you probably want to call a timeout right here. You got like a minute 30 left, and you don't have a 2-minute warning here. I don't know if you know that. But my little cousin could do it. I promise anyone who has grown up, back me up here, anyone who's grown up playing Madden knows when to call a timeout after like the 2-minute warning or like to get a field goal.
Anyone does, and also most kids growing up playing Madden know that, hey, if I'm a good enough offensive mind, I can eat the 5-yard penalty earlier in the half because I should be able to call a play to get those yards back.
Yeah. It's not that hard.
The delay of game, save your timeouts for crunch time. Yeah. It's not hard if you're good at calling offensive plays and good at recruiting guys to run those offensive plays.
Look, the only time I say like call the timeout is if you're in like one of those, like if Ohio State and Penn State this week are in a situation where
they're killing each other,
or it's early in the game and Penn State is at the Ohio State 7-yard line and they're about to get a delay of game. Yeah, bang that timeout. Mm-hmm. Like make sure you get that touchdown.
That's different than calling it at your own like 35.
Yeah, exactly. So if you get your own 35, the game's just started. It's 13-18 left in the game, man, or in the first quarter. It's not the fourth quarter. Like you don't necessarily need to bang that timeout and just take the penalty. Tell your quarterback, "I'm sorry, that's on me." Mm-hmm. Let's go. In the NFL, it's even more egregious because they have friggin' radios,
right? Yeah,
like they can just say, "I do wish that I do wish that the quarterback could talk back to him and just go, hey, no, I'm going to run this play right now. Well, I'm just going to snap it. We're going to hand it off. It's fine.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. I got it.
It is just baffling to me. You get paid that much money to look, you run a department of hundreds of people. I get it. The timeout deficiencies aren't top of mind. Mm-hmm. But in game, it just all comes down to in-game strategy too.
Yeah.
And you've watched him way more than me. He was a coach of your alma mater for forever. Mm-hmm. That stuff is bewildering, to be completely honest with you.
Well, look, he had his run at FSU was a nice, steady build to building the program back to, Bobby Bowden's problem was that Father Time caught up to him, and Urban Meyer's across the state doing things and recruiting and all this that Bobby just,
couldn't get on the road
couldn't beat him at. Bobby would go in your living room and, meet your grandma and wash the dishes. And then Urban Meyer's over there and he's already friended you on Facebook and all these things and sent messages to you and all he's got these young hip coaches who are just kind of, the lifeblood of things, and then, Bobby's got these old school coaches that are they want me to get on something called MySpace. I don't know.
Face Snap.
Yeah, all those. And so Jimbo Fisher modernized it. He wound up not getting the administration, and Jimbo got at loggerheads, and he had some personal strife in his life going through a divorce. So all that happened at once, and the honeymoon was over in Tallahassee so fast it made your head spin. But you thought, like, okay, well, the big problem in Tallahassee was he had an administration that didn't really support his overall goals and was a little bit antiquated, and he was trying to force them into a new century. Well, A&M is telling you, like, look, we'll buy, like, if you want a Westworld-style sex robot park, we'll build it for you. We don't care. Like,
are there recruits on the moon?
Yeah, like
get you a spaceship, son.
Where do you want to go? We'll take you there. And then he got all that, but sometimes there's details that you miss, and I think that clearly it's just he now is the guy, ironically, who won't move with the times.
Right.
You know, he was mad at FSU for that, and justifiably so. So he went to A&M that was like, we'll move with the time. Like, again, what do you need? Do you want like laser beams on top of the stadiums that will eliminate quarterbacks? If we can make that legal, we'll do it. Like, just tell us what you want to do. We will Dr. Evil up Kyle Field.
I was going to say a pit that opens up in the middle with sharks with laser beams on their head.
We don't care. We will do whatever it takes financially. And sometimes that's a bad thing because then you give a lot of power to people who don't know what they're doing.
Right.
But that happened, and then he's the guy who won't change.
Well, is it still? I mean, you would like to think that Petrino came in and 70-year-old, given a real shot in the arm to the program, real go-getter. Yeah. But are they running the same playbook from 2013?
I mean, I think he was for a long time. I think, like, if you look last year,
because I know that was like people kind of did the Twitter thing of like comparing Jameis Winston's throws to like other throws.
Yeah. And the thing is that the playbook worked in 2013 because it was a 2013 playbook, and he had the Heisman Trophy winner, which he's also not had at quarterback since he's been there. So, he was an offensive mind recruited to take their offense in new directions, and he took them in a circle. Like, we feel like we've been here before.
We came all the way back around.
Yeah. Hey, kids, Big Ben, Parliament. I mean, that's kind of how it was. You probably don't get that reference, but.
Yeah, no.
National Lampoon's European Vacation.
Oh, yes.
Hey, kids, Big Ben, Parliament. So, we know. All right, when we come back, the game of the year of the week this week is Ohio State and Penn State. And each week so far, the last month, there's been like one gigantic, huge, and there's a couple really good games this week, but nothing like Ohio State and Penn State. This one's going to be nasty, just like Oregon and Washington was last week.
Ohio State, Notre Dame.
Yeah, all those. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back. The game of the year this week, Royden, is Ohio State and Penn State. It is
Air Force and Navy. What?
Air Force and Navy. Air Force, undefeated. Rolling along.
Top 10 or top
25?
Yeah, top 25 in the nation, but also like a top 25 defense.
Yeah.
Dude, they're beating the crap out of people. Anyway.
Yeah. I felt, I'll just say, we saw them play in the did you go to the game last year, Royden? The Air Force?
No, I had the flu. No, I actually did have the flu, and I was going to go at the last second, and Darby and Chris were like, don't go.
It's one. That's how cold it is. It's 1. And you go 1 what? No, degree.
1.
There's not, you can't, when it's 1, you can't even say degrees.
No.
It's degree.
It is a single degree outside. Plan accordingly.
Yeah.
Pack your lead vest.
Yeah. So, seeing them last year, it did, restore my faith in the preparedness, not that it needed to be, of the American military in that. All of a sudden it's 1 degree in Texas and Air Force not bothered by it.
Yeah.
Nope. Nope, not at all.
Oh my God.
The people who live in that state and play there all the time were like, this is the apocalypse.
This is the worst thing that's ever happened to anyone.
This is it. Have you made your peace with God? I hope so.
Yeah.
There's no way he would do this to us unless he was ending the whole thing. So
we fly in the clouds. This is fine.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. You know how cold it could be in an aircraft carrier?
Yeah.
You're fine.
It's all steel.
Yeah, exactly. So, Ohio State.
Much like the turf at TCU Stadium that day.
Ohio State and Penn State, 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday.
What a game to wake up to.
Number 7 versus number 3. Penn State has been roiding in this thing for the last couple of years where they have a really good coach in James Franklin, but he was... Okay, defense is good, offense is boring. It's not terrible, but it's just there. It wasn't Iowa bad, but it wasn't Ohio State good. So they had their moments where it's, this team looks like they're on the rise, and they kind of were treading water for a little while. Well, they tread water no more. He's got Drew Aller at quarterback, who's fantastic. He's got a stable of skill players and running backs that are all fantastic. Mm-hmm. And this is a team that can legitimately go into Columbus and win the game. There's no doubt about that. And Ohio State's already played, in these big moment games this year. This is going to be Penn State's first real challenge of the season. But I mean, this game could go one of 2 ways because they're both pretty dang good on offense. Kyle McCord's starting to come into his own. And they're both pretty dang good on defense. So I'm wondering, this maybe doesn't get into the Oregon-Washington, oh dear God, how many wide receivers do you have kind of a thing. But I think it's probably a moderately scored game, but there's big defensive plays throughout.
I think it's like 27-20 if it does get to a score game, but it's probably more like a 23-20 game. I don't think they crack 30 points each.
It probably looks a lot like maybe a more offensive version of that Notre Dame game.
Yeah, more sophisticated, I guess, if you will. I like Penn. I was just looking at it because I was looking up the USC stats. Penn State number 1 in every defensive category. They've only allowed 6 opponent TDs this year.
Yes.
Ohio State number 7. They've only allowed 7. Yeah. So it's shocking to me that this is where we are with Ohio State. Like I was saying earlier in the show, I think the biggest coup on the planet was them getting Jim Knowles, like you said, and allowing that defense to catch up to where the offense was. Now all of a sudden their offensive ranks is unheard of for a Ryan Day. They're 32nd or something like that in scoring.
They still have Trayvon Henderson at running back. Kyle McCord, again, he's starting to come into his own. Yeah. It's his first year starting, and he has weapons on top of weapons. He has Marvin Harrison Jr., who's probably the best wide receiver in the country. Ekuba, all those guys. He's got all these dudes all over the place who can make plays. And so, they're going to find some of their offense. But, this one I do think that it's going to be in that 27-23 kind of a fight.
I will say whoever wins this goes to the playoff, probably.
You think they beat Michigan?
Look, actually it gets a little bit more complicated than that now that you mention it. I mean, I think that Michigan is going to lose somewhere. I just don't know. I just feel that
they haven't even come close yet.
I know, but neither has Penn State. Yeah. So if Penn State, let me put it this way. If Penn State wins this one, I think they can get to the playoff.
Yeah.
If they don't, it's not in the cards.
Yeah, look,
if it's not in the cards this year, then I don't know when it will be in the cards for James.
No.
That seems defeatist, but I just think it.
Michigan will be 9-0.
Do they play both Ohio State and
They're in the
Penn
same
State. Yeah,
side.
so I think they drop one of those.
They'll be 9-0 after the next 2 weeks, where the next two games, because they have a bye after this one. But they're at Michigan State and then they play Purdue. So 9-0. Then their last three are Penn State, at Maryland, and home for Ohio State. So that's where their danger zone comes in. That's a tough last 3 weeks, because Maryland, while not, a world beater of any kind, can score. Like they can score and then get hot.
Is still there throwing around them.
Yeah, they can throw around. If they limit their mistakes and they can force you into some and get you into a shootout, maybe they can hang in that game. Plus, it's at home. Ohio State, that's been their kind of scare this year for the first three quarters of that game. Maryland was giving them all they want, and then all of a sudden they shot Columbus into their veins in the fourth quarter and won the game. I mean, and put some distance. So, I don't know. I mean, this is the Pac-12 and the Big Ten have this situation that nobody else really has right now, in that, you could have that Michigan with one loss, Penn State with one loss, Ohio State with one loss, and it's traded off amongst the three.
That's what, in my mind, that's what made the most sense to me to happen, because then it would just cause. Because why wouldn't that happen? You know what I mean?
The Pac-12 could theoretically have it with USC, Washington, and Oregon. As that little circle goes around, but I don't think that's going to happen right now. Just based on our earlier conversation about USC. So that's why, this one is huge for both of them. It's like you got to make sure that when you do play the next one, that you're not behind that 1-loss 8-ball.
Right. Well, if Ohio State loses, they're done. Right?
No, because they still have to play Michigan. They could beat Michigan.
You think with 2 losses they would get in over a 1-loss Michigan, and it would take Michigan beating Penn State and yada yada.
Well, I mean, they have no losses, Ohio State. So
I thought they were 6-1.
Ohio State's undefeated.
Oh, they are undefeated. Okay,
they're number 3 in the country.
Yeah. I forgot they beat Notre Dame.
Yeah,
I forgot that they only had 10 players on the field.
Yes,
that is my. So I've been talking much like in theoreticals like they're going to be done.
Yeah, much like commandments. The Catholics only had 10 players on the field. But anyhow.
I have these 15. I have these 10 commandments.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why, forgive me. 6, yes, they could all be 6-1. I was thinking Ohio State was already 5-1.
Yeah, no, they're both undefeated. So you can trade off those losses.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's why this one even has that much more weight to it, because you both have to play Michigan after this. And whoever loses, if you lose to Michigan, then you're done. But if you don't, you still might have that little, let's hope for a 3-way tie scenario. And get into the very, I think every conference has this, we're in the very arbitrary tiebreaker section, where points scored above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah. Ooh.
Points scored while red.
Yeah.
Ohio
State.
Scored while on the road in crunch time. Definition of crunch time to be found later. And temperature under 32 degrees Fahrenheit.
But when you went to the Eras tour.
Did you also see the movie?
Yeah. All those things. Well, Michigan went to first, so they win.
I don't know. It does feel like an early de facto championship game. Now we just talking in circles, because it will come down to the Michigan matchups for both of these teams.
And Michigan is here's the thing. Michigan doesn't really care what happens in this game, right?
No, they control their own.
The only thing they care about is that this is an absolute street fight brawl, and that each of the teams comes out and is like, oh, God, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah. Marvin Harrison was decapitated. All right, we're moving down.
Yeah, no, they've beaten him twice in a row. So, and plus, Michigan now they're the kings of the conference. As much as Ohio State needs to get that back, the last 2 years Michigan's won the league and beaten Ohio State badly and Penn State badly in doing it both times.
Both of these coaches too have some weird stuff going on with their fan bases as well too. It almost feels. It's unfounded, because they've had really great success. And Penn State has had more success than they could have possibly ever dreamed of. I mean, granted, look, they've won a national title and so on. But, coming out of that scandal, they have had more success than they could have possibly ever dreamed of. It is crazy to me that both of these coaches, and especially Ryan Day, they just don't like him there.
Well, he is not. Look,
he's not Tressel. Like, what's the?
He's not Urban.
Yeah,
and look, the thing is that Ohio State, would take him back in a heartbeat. Watch one of the big noon kickoffs there.
Right.
I mean, they, big gigantic Valentines too. We don't care who gets hurt, just come back. That's kind of been some of the.
We're ready to be hurt again.
I said that's kind of that one loud part of the minority fan base. But Ryan Day is going to be a great coach for you to have as the 12-team playoff comes. The 12-team the dude is going to be baseline 10-2 almost every year. So 10-2 being Ohio State in the Big Ten is going to get you 12th. Mm-hmm. Bottom line, it's going to get you at least 12th. And the two losses might be to kind of like could be to Oregon and Michigan. And then while you're going to be mad about losing to Michigan, somebody else could beat them before you have to play them again. And then you could find your way in. This is how playoffs work. Like, that's why they're fun, is you don't know what's going to happen every time you roll the ball out.
Well, we've been so poisoned. I think it goes all the way back. It goes back generations, but like the BCS and everything else. But like we've been so poisoned to like one loss is a nail in the coffin that I think is going to take some getting used to for people to be like, oh shucks, get them next time.
Well,
because we're probably going to get to the playoff.
I think that's what the people who are against it are afraid. Like, they like that one loss ends your season, except for the fact that you've now created a system where only a couple teams can ever really achieve that plateau, and then it gets boring because, the reason that we got the 4-team playoff in the first place was we had Alabama and LSU for the second time that year, and the national champion
worst championship game I've ever seen,
and it was awful.
It stinks, man, and you know it. It was awful. I fell asleep.
Yeah. And look, for LSU, the team who lost the most in that was not just LSU who lost the game, but Alabama had no penalty for losing to LSU.
Right.
The computer somehow spit out hey, you remember LSU when you beat them earlier in the year? Yeah, that doesn't matter. You have to play them again. Oh, we do? Yeah. What happened to we beat them before? No. The robot gods have spoken. Here you go. So we got to that point.
Where was this AI fear when we were in 2007?
It's always been there. But, But then I think most of the people, you couldn't tell your dad, hey, they'll be able to make a computer that looks and sounds exactly like you. And you're like, nah. Yeah. When I see it, it's
Terminator's not real.
Yeah. Or when they see it on TV, it's hello, Dave. Please enter your PIN number. Nobody sounds like that.
Right.
And the guy on the screen is pixelated. It's not that. So yeah, I think that's why.
Look, if these two teams, like you said, if these two teams beat the crap out of each other, then Michigan is licking their chops. I mean, obviously they still got to win, but the best case scenario for Michigan is if this is one of those LSU Alabama games.
Yeah.
And we just got a 17-10 field goal fest, and then everybody's happy. But I don't know. This holds so much more water than I envisioned it holding coming into the year.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, you got some legit teams. The game of the year of the week this week, Ohio State and Penn State from Columbus. Royden, thanks so much for being here today.
Oh, you're so welcome.
And I, like the rest of the baseball-loving world, says I hope that you take the Astros' impending loss well.
On my at my funeral, just say I want the Astros to lower me into my coffin so they can let me down one more time.
Look, they've
had unprecedented success. And I'm sitting here being like, why can't they hit the ball? And it's just the worst. Playoff baseball is the worst. I have an ulcer. I want to go home.
Yeah. It's, you hang on everybody who says it's boring, watch in October, man. Watch in October and tell me it's boring.
It's like the NBA. That's the only good time to watch.
All the college football fans that don't like the playoff scenario are begging you to watch playoff baseball.
Yeah.
Begging.
Yeah. Yeah. No, just you hang on It's great. I don't even have a real dog in the hunt.
I'm going to tell you, not being in the playoffs, so much better.
You
so much better.
You move on. You might watch an early season NBA game. You know why? Because you're just curious.
You know what's funny? I'm actually 19. I've been watching playoff baseball for 7 years.
Yeah.
Since I was 12, and I look like this.
Yeah. Look, this is years of being a Red Sox fan.
Right.
So I had to understand after the third one they'd won, but like as with 2013, I had to understand that like, oh, my life's good now.
Yeah, it's all
good.
gravy, right?
It's great. It's good now. Like now I've experienced it. There's people who will never will. Like, you know, when you tell a Mariners fan, like, oh, you're a Red Sox fan, they're like, oh, yeah, you know what joy is.
I mean, you could be from Cleveland.
Yeah, exactly. You could be from Cleveland. That's true. That's going to do it for us. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast.